14 WILI and 95.3 FM presents Hometown Threads, a closer look at our community and the people that make it go. Every week, you'll hear uplifting stories from our local businesses and our neighbors. Now, here's our host for Hometown Threads, Keith C. Rice.
Welcome into episode 122 of Hometown Threads on 14 WILI and 95.3 FM. Hometown Threads has been, just turned 3 years old. Yeah, we started in November of 2022, celebrating a third birthday with 121 episodes, and we're going to meet our guest for episode 122 in just a sec. But big thanks to, of course, J. Matt Rupar, who's been with me since day one, and Liberty Bank. They've been with us since the very beginning. Liberty Bank, be community kind with three great local locations. Of course, across the street from the radio station at 679 Main Street, Willimantic. 1703 West Main Street, managed by my lovely wife, Marianne, and Route 195 in Mansfield. Liberty Bank, be community kind. J. Matt Rupar, if you be so kind, say hello to the fine folks.
Hello.
All right. We thank Liberty Bank. Another sponsor is our podcast sponsor. Not only can you listen to Hometown Threads every Tuesday from 5:05 to 5:30, but you can also listen to it by going to WILI.com, and we call that podcast. There's not just Hometown Threads. All the other wonderful talk shows are up there at WILI.com for the most part. Big thanks to the podcast sponsor, Tripoli Pro Clean Services. Hello to Mark Tripoli. And you can, as I said, listen to the show only one way. That's at WILI 1400 or 95.3. But you can view the show on Spectrum 192 or on Willimantic Today Facebook, or, on my page, the Keith C. Rice Facebook page, or the guests. I usually tag the guest if they are on Facebook. And, WILI Radio on YouTube. We like to push that a little. Just search WILI Radio on YouTube, subscribe, and you'll be able to watch all the great shows. You got to get Wayno's show up there. I know Matt's heard me say that.
Yeah, we do.
Homegrown's up there. A little plug for J. Matt Rupar's Friday show. Connecticut artist music. Did I say it right? Connecticut artist-based music show. Right?
Yeah.
And precedes that as the new Friday Sports Scene with Keith and Coivisto. So, all right, here we go. Episode 122 of Hometown Threads. We're going to have a little fun. We're going to play 6 Degrees of Steve Gonzales. Welcome in, Steve Gonzales, better known as Gonz or Gonzo. You know the face, you know the voice. This guy, you may know him from Stop and Shop. He's been there for many years, like 4 decades now, right?
Yeah, don't say that, but yes.
But you probably know him from coaching, playing sports. I just found out, I kept thinking you were all baseball, but you're a three-sport athlete here in the Wyndham-Willimantic area.
Yep.
And what was your main sport?
I mean, it was baseball. You know, we played for Wyndham Tech. Back then it was Wyndham Tech, which is the QVC, our old conference, is basically.
There were the Beavers back then.
The Beavers, yeah. Still the Beavers to us. Still the Beavers.
All right,
to us.
there you go.
There's no Mighty Tigers.
I love it.
But yeah, we had our own football program and basketball, and I actually went to college and played basketball. I didn't even play baseball in college.
Wow.
Yeah, so 3 sports, but baseball was my best sport by far. I mean, all of us played baseball back then.
We did, and we were just talking about, well, you said it best, that's all we do really around this area is play sports.
Yeah.
And this area loves it. Doesn't matter what it is. No. Baseball, basketball, football. Well, you said you play football too, or was it just
football, yeah.
So Tech wasn't co-op back then.
No. Coach Cervisi we had our own program.
Cervisi did football too, that's right.
Yeah, he ran the football program, yep. So played baseball and football for Coach Cervisi and basketball for Coach Elliott.
That's right, Coach Elliott.
Yep.
Coach Steve Cervisi, Cervisi, right?
Cervisi. We call him the Viz, but
Viz,
Cervisi, yeah.
Viz. He's been on Hometown Threads before. So yeah, you coached under him. Well, let's talk about growing up around here, because you and I we're 5 years apart.
5 years apart, yeah.
But we're just talking about how that was the thing to do growing up. And we all played sports. And we all came up. We were all surrounded by very talented athletes, and a lot of the competition was always was pretty high around here. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, it's definitely high. There's no doubt about that. And luckily for us, all the guys that played before us then ended up coaching. And some of the coaches we had, I mean, my coaches growing up in baseball were Coach Noheimer, Duke Noheimer, Coach Cervisi, and Coach Riz. Like, how do you get any better than that?
Talk about three legendary coaches.
From the time I was 12 years on, that's who I'm playing for. So
now, before you got into coaching, we kind of did a show before the show here. I'm like, I was picking his. By the way, let's get this out of the way. And I just thought of it before the mics and the cameras went on. You are like a Chris Smith doppelganger. Chris Smith, former UConn standout. But what does Tommy Spector say too?
Tommy sends me pictures of Smitty all the time saying that I'm... But listen, I have better handle than Chris Smith.
Oh, really?
No doubt about that. We played against each other a couple of times at Gamble.
Did you guys really?
The old field house. The old field house.
Oh, in like pickup games?
Yeah, pickup games. He killed me.
Yeah. I was about to say, I thought you were for a second.
No.
He's still the all-time leading scorer, I think, right?
He was amazing. I don't know how he didn't stick.
Speaking of all-time, where do you stand on any of the Wyndham Tech? Do you have any Wyndham Tech records?
I had a pitching record there forever. I think a kid, Lewis, I can't remember his last name, a few years ago broke it. But like I tell Coach, it's different now. We played, Griswold was our rival, Plainfield. So we were basically, our QVC, our conference was the ECC Smalls.
I remember this.
So now they're in a tech school conference, so it's all tech school, so it's a little bit different.
The layout, look, and I know times have changed. The layout, the co-op, you'd probably agree because we basically grew up in the same time period. It's not only confusing, but it's just not the same. I know why they do it because now correct me if I'm wrong. Less kids are playing, right?
Less kids are playing, and Wyndham High is so much smaller than it used to be.
Yeah.
Think about it. It was a Class LL school when I was at Wyndham Tech. So now Wyndham Tech actually has more kids in it than Wyndham High.
How about that?
That's crazy,
So let's go back to, we're jumping all over the place here. There's so many things that are going to come up here that I hope come up, and I'm sure I'll leave some. It always happens after the show. I'm like, I should ask that. But you take us through where did you, at one point throughout your high school career and how talented you were as an athlete, you must have thought of at some point, all right, I could take this further. Like, I want to get to the next level. Were you thinking majors at some point, Major League Baseball?
No, we didn't. The guys in front of me, so you got to remember, I graduated in 85. So I grew up watching Stan Harris, Paul Martineau, Sean Risley, Randy Luciani. Those guys were in the Legion program right before I got into it. So it was always on the table because those guys actually... Some of them got to that level. They went to the minor leagues. They did that. We watched their work ethic. We grew up idolizing them. So we thought, yeah, we're next. But it's easy to say, yeah, I'm next. And then
But they probably made you better going up.
Yeah.
Learning from them.
Stan Harris in particular was brutal. Just to play a game of catch.
Talk a little about playing with those guys.
You just learn the importance of working your tail off. Like I would drive by Wyndham High or ride by Wyndham High in the middle of the winter, and Randy and Paul and Stan would be running hills together. Not baseball season, not anything to do with, Coach Riz isn't there, and they're just pushing each other every day.
That's amazing.
And those guys, but so you think, oh, we can do that, but what's lost that those guys were also supremely talented. Yeah. So their work ethic actually matched their abilities. Coach Easton won a national championship with a whole Wyndham High infield.
Yeah,
Sean Risley at third, Stan at short, Dumas at second, and Paul Martineau at first. Randy Luciani and Glenn Bacon were two of the pitchers.
How about that?
All Wyndham High School.
Growing up around here, I know I moved away for a bunch of years, but so I'm leaning on you, Gon. Steve Gonzales with us to remind me of some of these. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, those guys were amazing.
Yeah. Chris Dumas, I see him on Facebook all the time. I totally forget he was part of that legendary infield.
Yeah, he was.
Shout out to Dumas.
Yep, Dooms and I ended up coaching Legion together for a couple of years.
Okay, yep.
So get full circle.
Get into your coaching, how that all started for
you.
I
went to school, went to Thames Valley, transferred to Eastern, was going to walk on the baseball team, and Coach Holowati sort of let me know he didn't think I could pitch at that level because, I didn't throw hard.
That must have fired you up a little. Come on.
No.
Appreciate the honesty, but
yes,
come on. Yeah.
But maybe I should have just went out anyways, and because I could get people out. I didn't throw 90, but I always got people out.
You were the ace of the staff, I'm assuming, right?
It was Tech, yes, but yes, I was.
Come on, don't give yourself credit.
So I had Joe Kegler underneath me. Joe went on to Western, and he pitched at Western. He was a big boy. He threw hard. Back then, Tech had some Mike Pahouty.
We'll get into him, but so go ahead. You, Holowati told you that.
So he said basically you'd probably throw JV for me, and I was like, well, I'll start coaching. So I jumped on Coach Savizzi's.
Wow, that quickly? You said I'm going to go into coaching?
I had to work. I had to do some things, and you grow up fast. and I was, I don't know, 20, 21, or maybe, yeah, right around that time, and I just started coaching. Got my
You
certification.
got to Stop and Shop too. We'll get into that as well as a lot to, but so you kind of fell in love with coaching because there's a lot of people that talked you up, including our mutual good friend, and I still chat with. He lives in Virginia Beach, but he was a household name in Willimantic Little League. Mike Bahouty.
Mike Bahouty
Always talked about you as well as a lot of other people, and just praised you up and down. But was he? I know you coached. You had the privilege of coaching so many great athletes. Would you have to say where does Bahouty rank on that?
I mean, his natural ability was amazing. We talk about bat speed. Mike Bahouty, I played with Brian Specialski, who's went to UConn and played for the Angels, double-A ball. Bat speed-wise, Phil Jenkins, Stan Harris, Mike Bahouty, and Brian Speck. Those four guys could throw their hands like nobody else. Now, Mike didn't go on after, but man, was he, I mean, when he swung the bat, it sounded different.
Now, I could be wrong because Mike and I used to play a lot of wiffle ball together, too, and Jeff Buskey and Jeff
Maybe
Bennett.
You're the reason. Maybe you're the reason.
I remember back in the day when Mike, and I used to hang with that Legion crowd. I was the public address announcer there when they were playing at the old Alumni Field. And Mike, I apologize if I get this wrong, but he used to love Manny Ramirez. This is when Manny was coming up.
Yep, he sure did.
Maybe this was, Manny might be a little off on the time period there. But yeah, I remember he liked Manny Ramirez from what I remember. But yeah, you mentioned Bahouty, Jenkins, how do you say his name?
Specialski.
I know who you're talking about.
Yep.
And then who's the other guy? The fourth guy you mentioned. Maybe there was three. I thought there was a fourth.
There could Stanley.
Stanley, yes. So were you surprised that Stan actually got a bite from Major League? Didn't he play a little minor league ball with Martineau?
Well,
not with Martineau. But.
So we thought he was drafted after his senior year, and then ended up not coming to fruition. I think they just were scared of his size.
Okay.
He was 140-something pounds. Yeah, he was an amazing player.
Great player.
Funny story, when I was 18, 19, we had this team from all the local guys. Tony's Pizza, Sean Risley ran it. And Stanley was 20, I was 21, 22. So Stanley was like 26, 27. A bird dog for the Rangers followed us around all summer in men's leagues game. They were thinking about drafting this guy at 26, 27 years old after his college career was over.
Oh my God!
So the guy followed us around for weeks in the middle of the summer, and then the Rangers probably said, "We got to pull off of this." But that's how special Stanley was. He was just small.
Yeah, great player. I remember following him at Eastern. I was still like, I was probably junior, senior year of high school. And I remember back then, WILI would carry, Wayno would be doing the Eastern games, and, they were on 90.1 of the Eastern stage. Anyway, I listened to Wayno, especially when they got into the postseason tournaments. Wayno would go out with them to Marietta or, Wisconsin. But yeah, Eastern was always in the thick of it.
Always in the thick of it.
It's just amazing. We're very lucky to have grown up in an area like this. Steve Gonzales, Gonzo, whatever you call him, playing 6 degrees of Steve Gonzales here because he's connected to everyone. Episode 122 of Hometown Threads on WILI, brought to you by Liberty Bank. Be community kind. So you get into coaching. You turned out to be a tremendous coach, but also life took over, and you end up you've been at Stop and Shop since. I just saw this the other night when I bumped into Steve, since 1985. Talk a little about how you still were doing what you love, coaching and being around sports, and getting into Stop and Shop.
Yeah, so I started as a part-timer. I put myself through college. My parents were deceased, so I worked at Stop and Shop. I went to school. I, went to Eastern, and it was just always going to be a part-time gig. And then my girlfriend, ex-wife at the time, got pregnant, so then I went full-time overnights, full-time third shift, so I could stay in school full-time. And while I finished up, I started coaching with Coach Cervisi, and all that sort of just ran into each other. And then I ended up never leaving. Even after I graduated and got my degree, I didn't go back and get my teaching certification and just sort of stayed. I kept the flexibility so I could remain coaching. Right. So I pretty much have coached since like 1987, all the way through. I've got.
Wait, and you're not coach. You're not. Are you still coaching?
I'm coaching now. I coach E.O. Smith football.
Okay, we'll get into that. So, you've been how long have you been produce manager at Stop and Shop? Did I get that right? Is that produce manager?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh gosh, I think I got my first job. I was 24. So
that's when you became produce
manager. Yeah.
How about that? Best produce in town. See this guy right here. All right, so. What an example you set there, and props to you for life takes over. You got to step up and provide for your family. Talk a little about the coaching these days. Now you said you're coaching E.O. Smith football. I just on my Friday sports show just had Jacob Stearns on.
Oh, yes,
who's the
okay.
defensive backs wide receiver coach, I believe. Jacob came on. Of course, we talked about Jack's Pleasant Pizza. We just opened up, but excuse me, E.O. Smith football. We got into that, and they were getting ready. You guys were getting ready to play Bristol Eastern the other night.
Yep.
So, talk a little about here's a question for you. What's the difference, or explain how the kids are? How is it coaching kids today as opposed to way back when you started?
So when I started, the biggest difference, everyone always asks me that, what's the difference between a kid in 1990 and now? And I say there's not much difference in the kid. It's the parents. So, Coach Riz coached us hard. Coach Cervisi coached us
I want to go back
hard.
to Risley and Cerviz, but go ahead.
Coach Riz, a few years ago, God rest his soul, I was coaching Legion, and he came up to me and Dooms, and he apologized to us for the way he coached us when we were kids. And I said, "What are you talking about, Coach? You made us men." But he's like, "Well, I wouldn't be able to coach now." And I said, "No, you wouldn't. There's no way." And so you change things, but the biggest difference, honestly, Keith, the kids are faced with so much more now, but they still want to do the job. They still want to give you everything they have. It's just the biggest difference is parents. Yeah. Parents don't. Years ago, if a kid came home and told his mom or dad, Coach Gons yelled at me, and the guy would say, "What'd you do?" Or, "I agree with Coach." Now we'll get a text or a call, "Why'd you yell at my boy?" Or, "Why isn't my boy playing?" So that's, to me, the biggest difference is the parents and the way we parent.
How do the coaches work around that? If I'm not, it probably doesn't happen that much, at least I'm assuming. But, you get that text, and how do the parents react when you say, well, this is why, this is why we did that. This is why we did that. Are they? I hope there's some patience and some understanding there.
There is. I mean, you just have to watch yourself a little bit more now. Everything has to go through the proper channels.
Oh, really?
Years ago, I firmly believe in just being honest and upfront with a kid, and therefore with their parents if they get involved. Now, I'm an assistant at EO, so I don't have to deal with what Coach Kelly has to deal with.
Right.
And I couldn't at this point because, there's a time to be politically correct and to navigate, and Coach Kelly's good at that. I'm not so much good at that. And when I was at Wyndham Tech and Wyndham, I didn't have to deal with that as much.
Right. Have you ever thought about, correct me if I'm wrong, have you been a head coach, or you always been an assistant?
Wyndham High softball. Okay. I was there for 12 years. Me and Mike Lassard, we co-coached. We both did. He was in the system, and I was still working, so I would get there after, but we were both head coaches.
Good.
Same thing there. That was a while ago, and those girls' parents, for the most part, they understood that we always had their kids' best interests at heart, and they didn't step on our toes too much.
So let's backtrack again. You must have some great Coach Riz. I just ran into Pat the other day at Blondie's. Pat just had a birthday too. Pat Risley. We got to get one of the. We got to get. There's a bunch of Risleys we can get on here, but we got to get Pat on eventually too. But you must have some Sean, because you played with Sean.
Played with Sean.
And we'll see. You must have some Cervisi stories too, but I don't know where you want to start. But come on, share something with us here.
So, actually, I played with Sean in adult leagues, in men's leagues.
I bet that's you too. You must have played Twilight League.
Yes,
here,
that's
right?
where we. Yes, so I played with Sean when I first got 18, 19. So it was literally.
What was that team like? Name that.
So that's Stanley Harris, Sean Risley, Kenny Valier, Mick Yomo, Ish Roman. Like I'm the last guy on the.
Was Paoli on that team?
Michael was not. He was still young. Yeah, so we're talking 18, 19.
Oh, it was 18, 19.
And then a couple of guys from other towns, like a Steve Bissett from Plainfield and a Johnny Lesnuzzi. So they were loaded teams. How
many years in a row did you guys win? Come on, you guys
hardly ever lost. We went a couple of summers where we just never lost. I mean, when you can throw out Glenn Bacon, Steve Bissett, and Ish, and
I remember these names.
They're just it was nuts.
I remember picking up the paper here in Wayne. I'll read the scores, going, "Oh my God, what a lineup!"
It was.
You guys were absolute legends down there at Rec Park.
I mean, yeah, and it was fun back then. The Twilight League was a big league. You had 8, 10, 12 teams.
Not anymore, right?
No, it's all softball now.
It's all softball.
It's all softball.
That's right. Then props to those girls. Was it co-ed? I always forget.
There's a women's league and a men's league, and then they do a co-ed league on Sundays too.
Very popular.
Yeah, very popular.
Wayno gets those scores on the radio too. All right, so you play. How about some Risley, Holowati, Cervisi stories?
I mean,
you're filled with stories.
Yeah. I played for Coach Cervisi 4 years baseball, 3 years football. I babysat his kids when with Mikey and Stevie when Kristen was born. So he's like almost like another father to me when I went through. I had a pretty rough childhood, and Coach took me in, and so my stories with Coach, because some of them I could never say on the air because Coach's language was not very clean. He was a competitive man. The funny thing is, I don't know if you know this, Cervisi and Coach Crudden went to Springfield together.
I think I may have heard that, yeah.
And they both came to this area from school,
how
from
about
here.
that?
And then they ended up coaching and
we've been so blessed
creating
not
their
only
legacy.
We've been so blessed with not only great athletes but great coaches too. And before the show started, I told you I grew up in the Rob Haddad, Rob Larnard, who else? Alex Coriarty. Years there when I remember playing little pal with those guys, and boy, we got some great runs, and they made me. And I always thought I had a pretty good outside shot, but those guys made me better playing. I always thought I remember being in middle school in Kramer. I said I played at Kramer with those guys, going I want to go to Lyman and really show my stuff. And I sat bench varsity, played a lot of JV, and then after 10th grade, I think realities, sunk in and go, okay. I started doing radio in high school. I'm thinking, well, I'm 5'5". I may have a pretty decent outside shot, but let's be real here. So, but yeah, we just grew up around so many great athletes.
Yeah,
we really did.
You talk about basketball. Ron Pires.
Right
down the road.
Talk a little about Ron.
YMCA, Ron Pires. I mean, what kid didn't grow up, running over there and go and play basketball at the YMCA gym? And Ron just taking you in. I had a personal connection with Ron because he graduated high school with my parents, with both of my parents. They graduated in '66 from NFA.
Tight.
Yeah, so when I came up to this area, because I was born in London, when I came up to this area, the first place my mom brought me was to the Y with Ronnie, because she knew Ron from high school. So Ron was like, you think of some of those names, Thad Weaver, Joe Kegler, you can go down the list of all those guys, and Ron used to take them and just compete in AAU before it was really AAU, and it was really just Ron running around grabbing people and feeding them and taking them to play basketball and showing them a different side.
You and Ron are a lot alike. You've both set tremendous examples for young athletes around here. You should really give yourself a lot of credit. I remember Coach Pires from E.O. Smith, well, also the YMCA. But my later years, he was coaching at E.O. Smith. He coached Jeff Calhoun, Jim's son. Quick story here. I remember being in 10th grade. I got in a game against E.O. Smith. Jeff Calhoun's towering over me. Coach Pires is, just calling plays. There's Jeff Calhoun behind the three-point line just doing this. For those of you who are listening in radio land, I'm just clapping. But you could watch this. They'd feed him threes and just drain three. Jim was sitting at the top of Coach Calhoun sitting at the top of the bleachers, and I didn't make that an impression on Coach Calhoun. But yeah, that's what I, in my later years, remember of Coach Pires. But in the closing minutes here, I want you to show some love to your wonderful family too, because you've done such wonderful things over the years, not just in the sports community, but you've set a great example for your family. And I know one of your daughters, Chantel, she's on our sister station, I-98.3. She does one of the listener liners. But go ahead, you want to show your family some love?
Yeah, she played softball at Wyndham. She was a really good player at Wyndham, and then Desiree went to Wyndham Tech. Same thing.
Played sports
yep.
Too?
Yes, she played for. It's funny. Quick story about Des. Her freshman year, first game, she gets in a basketball game. They're blowing somebody out. She ends up scoring 13 points, her first game ever. Coach Elliott, who coached me in high school, calls timeout. He knows I'm sitting behind the bleach. And the school at Wyndham Tech, it's only 4 rows of bleachers, right? Yeah. And he calls timeout, and he calls her over. He says, Des, I just want you to know you just scored more points in your first game as a freshman than your dad scored in his whole career for me.
Oh, that's a great way to go out. Oh, my God.
So it was great.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So again.
So you have the two girls. Is there there a son?
Yes. I have three. So I have another daughter, and then I have two more boys, stepsons. They both played at EO, and then they went on and played in college.
Wow.
Yeah. So they played football in college, and Anthony played baseball at Eastern. Transferred. He went with Sean Gilblair and finished his career down at Mitchell.
Wow. Look at you.
So
all right.
Blessed in that way, and. Yeah, as far as this community goes, that's what we do, right?
Have you ever coached any of your kids?
Yeah. That's how I got into football at EO, I coached Wyndham softball when Chantel was there, and then you end up staying longer. I mean, here I am years later still doing it. Now, I played for Coach Riz, and I coach his grandson, and it's just, there's cycles to it, If Michael Bahouti was up here, I'd be coaching his kid. It'd be one way or another. That's what we do in this community.
The stories live on, and you're a big part of it, and I'm glad I ran into you the other night.
Yes.
And thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks.
Steve Gonzales,
Thanks for having me, Keith.
Gonzo, and keep up the great work. Good luck with E.O. Smith.
Thank you.
Jacob was telling us you got a promising future down there with the Panthers.
Yeah, yep. Great young core, and now we've got Jacob. Jacob played for me, and I coached his brother. Yeah, so, now the young kids are coming back and doing the same thing. The cycle continues, and he's a good coach. He's a born coach.
Love it.
He was a tough kid, and now he's a born coach, and the young kids love him.
I know we're going to do more stories as soon as the mics and cameras go off.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you for checking out Hometown Threads, episode 122. Big thanks to Liberty Bank, Be Community Kind, J. Matt Rupar, Willimantic Today, Facebook. And that'll wrap it up for the 122nd episode of Hometown Threads. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And in the words of the great Roddy McCumber,
bye for now, folks. Bye for now.
And that concludes another edition of Hometown Threads. Got a story for Keith? Reach out to him on Facebook by searching Keith C. Rice or email him at krice@hallradio.net. Don't forget to tune in next week on 14 WILI and 95.3 FM, as well as the Willimantic Today page on Facebook.